As long as you want it to be, dude.
We are live,
Yeah,
gentlemen. We are
Oh,
live with Jim McMahon. So, first of all, Jim, thank you very much for agreeing to do this. I know a lot of people are very excited. Bruce and I are very excited. So, first of all, we appreciate you doing this. How's life in Arizona?
it's it's good. So far, so good. They're still counting votes, so we'll figure out how good it's going to be here in the next couple of days, I guess.
Yes, that's what everybody is. That's what everybody is pretty much looking at right now.
yes, sir.
Thankfully, there's not much drama in Illinois, so we haven't had to deal much with that. Well,
Well,
okay, not
there's a
much
lot.
drama in
No,
counting votes. Let's go with that.
There you go. There you go.
So, Bruce,
Yeah.
you know the drill. If you want to introduce Jim a little bit for anybody who somehow doesn't know who he is, and then you can fire away with the first few questions. Have at it.
Yes, sir. Well, first off, here's a man that needs no introduction. However, I'm going to give him one anyways. Two-time Super Bowl champion, Chicago Bears legend, Green Bay Packers somewhat legend, the punky QB, Jim McMahon. Thank you again and for gracing us with your presence. Um, First and foremost, I mean, we're going to ask the question, how you doing? How's life? How are things going?
everything's going pretty well. Still breathing. Can't complain. We were talking earlier. I just bought a house in Mexico, so I'm going to be spending a lot of time down there. It looks like, depending on how this vote goes. But yeah, I'm doing all right. I've got my fifth grandchild a month ago, so things are
Congratulations.
looking good.
Congratulations on that, man. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Number five.
That's impressive.
Yeah, didn't have any 3 years ago. Now I got five. So
Ooh,
guess they come in bunches.
they do.
I was gonna say, what's it like being called grandpa?
Well, the ones that can talk call me Papa Jim, so that's pretty cool. I haven't been called Grandpa yet, so I like Papa Jim instead of Grandpa.
I
Yeah,
feel
I like
it.
that. Jim, what do you do? I mean, obviously, you spend time with your family, your grandkids, but do you do a lot of speaking appearances? Like, what do you do in your free time right now? You play golf. I know Bruce is a big golf guy.
Well, I've done well. A lot of things were canceled, this year because of this COVID hoax. But yeah, things are picking up a little bit. I just got back from Florida at an event. I'm going to Vegas next week for another one. So things are starting to, the restrictions are starting to ease up. So yeah, getting out playing a little bit of golf. But other than that, I've been in my yard for the last 6 months doing a lot of work, trying to get the house. I want to try to sell this house and get something smaller. But yeah, that's basically it. I'm trying to get involved with a cannabis company out in California, working on that, and hopefully that'll come to fruition, and things will look really good after that.
That is a new good business. A lot of states in this election cycle legalized that, so that's definitely a good business venture to get into.
Yeah, it's about time they're starting to realize that that we've been lied to by the government for over 100 years about this plant. We're supposed to be using this plant. We have receptors up and down our spine and in our brain for this plant, and it was demonized for so long. And I think now people are finally realizing, hey, this is actually good for you. And I'm glad to see things changing.
Is that something?
So,
One more question before I cut you off, Bruce. Is that
no, no.
I am interested? Like, do how much do players use that in NFL locker rooms?
I don't know if they use it in the locker rooms, but
Well,
I'm
yeah.
sure I'm sure there's guys that use it. There was guys that used it when I played, and I used it myself when I was playing. So you can't live on those damn painkillers, and that's all they were offering. And
Yeah.
I never sleep. Taking all those painkillers, I couldn't sleep, and then the only way I could was to use cannabis. So uh, I never failed a drug test, and if you failed a drug test back then, you really were an idiot because you knew when the test was. And if you passed your first test, then they couldn't bust you for anything other than steroids for the rest of the year. And so if you were clean your first test,
Yeah.
you know, pretty much smoke every day for the rest of the year, and they couldn't bust you. That's how the rules were.
Interesting.
So I was actually going to ask you about that. With the being hurt and all of that, and taking supplements. something for pain relief, because obviously you needed that in your career. I mean, no one's naive enough to think that that wasn't the case whatsoever. So I want to go down that road a little bit. Talk to us about some of the rehab that you've had to do in your past and during your playing career.
Well, I basically lived in rehab. I had 18 surgeries while I was playing. I never had a Tuesday off because I was always in treatment. But my shoulder rehab was the worst. It was, I was working out 3 times a day, getting the scar tissue broken out of my armpit, which is as painful as I don't know if you can even imagine the kind of pain that is.
Yeah.
3 times a day getting that worked out. They told me I wouldn't play for 2 years, and I was back playing in about 10, 11 months. So I probably wasn't ready, but I wanted to get back to play.
So let's keep down that road. I love the Minnesota Vikings. I think it was a Thursday night game. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That can you talk to us a little bit about that, with like some of the conversations you had with Ditka leading up to that game, and how that went?
Well, I spent Monday in the hospital in traction. My neck and shoulder was all spasmed up. I got out of the hospital, went to practice. I wasn't going to practice, and the Monday night crew happened to be at our facility watching that day's practice, and so I just sat up in the stands with those guys and just BS with them. So that irritated Mike. He'd already told me I wasn't playing, so why did I need to stand around and practice? I'd rather go talk to Joe Namath, who had idolized my growing up. So the next night, we fly up to Minnesota. I was also, besides the traction problem, I had gotten a turf burn around my one of my knees. I can't remember. I think it was my left knee. That had gotten infected, so my calf was as big as my thigh pretty much at the time.
Ooh.
And so I didn't go down to the meeting that night. I was just up in my room knowing I wasn't going to play. I was icing my leg, kept it elevated. One of the coaches came up and got me, said Dick was mad that I wasn't at the meeting, so I had to go down and hear this crap from him. And I said, look, you told me I wasn't playing. What the hell I got to be down here for? And anyway, the next night I go to the stadium. It's a funny thing about adrenaline. When that adrenaline kicks in, a lot of the aches and pains go away. And I was also on a hell of a lot of muscle relaxers and painkillers as well. So we got to the stadium. I warmed up. I felt really good. I was throwing the ball well. I told Mike in pregame, look, if you need me, I can play. And he's like, nah, get out of here. You're not playing. And so that's what I got for pretty much the whole first half. Things weren't going all that well, and they were 1-1 at the time, I think, and we were 2-0. So that was a big game in the division, even though it was early. Mm-hmm. Minnesota always kind of gave us a tough time up there, and I'm convinced to this day the only reason he put me in the ball game is because I was just a pain in his ass the whole first half, and then started the third quarter. And so he finally put me in the game, and then, the rest was history, but it worked out pretty good.
Hell yeah, it did. 3 touchdown passes later and a W.
Well, yeah, the first play actually was, he gave me a screen pass to go in the game with. And so I called the screen pass in the huddle. And, when I came away from the center, if anybody remembers the film clip, I damn near fell on my face. I was my legs were a little wobbly. And, I saw blitz right away, and blitz, when you have blitz, you got man-to-man. So somebody's going to run to the fullback who the screen was for. Walter came in and did his job, picked up his blitz protection. And when I planted my foot, I just happened to look downfield, and Willie Galt was 10 yards past his man. And he was just doing his job, running his guy deep. And I just threw it to him anyway. Mm-hmm. And we scored, and I knew the lineman couldn't have been downfield that quickly because it all happened pretty quick. As soon as I planted, I saw him and threw it. So, everybody was excited. I came off the field, and Ditka grabbed me and said, "What damn play did you call?" Hey, the screen. And he said, well, why the hell did you throw it to Willie? I said, well, because he was open.
He was open.
And we scored, and, what's the big deal? And, the very next play, I think, or 2 plays later, that we got a turnover and deep in their territory. And we ran a bootleg pass, and that was another touchdown pass. And then, probably 3 or 4 plays later, we scored again, and that pretty much sealed the victory for us.
So aside from that game, what from that season was the and the Super Bowl, aside from the Super Bowl, because that's a memory in and of itself. What game really stands out to you aside from that Minnesota Viking game you just talked about?
Oh boy, the Washington game that year. We were down, I think, 10-0 early in the game. Willie Galt ran back a kickoff, kind of got us going, and we ended up trouncing him after that. But that was a big key for us. Obviously losing on Monday night to Miami was a big deal to a lot of people. To me, it wasn't. I mean, we got done what we wanted to do, which was win the Super Bowl. It would have been nice to go undefeated, but we didn't play well that night. So, and that was kind of a wake up call for everybody. Hey, if we're not on our game, we can get beat. And from there on out, we were pretty solid from there out.
So, do you think that Miami's spread had a lot of effect on that 46 defense?
Oh, no doubt about it. They exposed the weakness of the defense. You put a guy like Marino in the shotgun, get away from the rush right away. They ran all hot routes, so he didn't have to hold the football.
Right.
And, he had a big night because of that. I would have loved to play them again in the Super Bowl because I didn't get to play that night up in late in the game because they had the worst rush defense in the league that year. I think Walter could have ran for 300 yards if they let him run, but we got down early and kind of panicked and started throwing the ball around, and that's just not what we were doing or not what we did well. So, but it turned out okay. They beat us, but they lost a home playoff or the home the championship game at their place. So New England deserved to be there. And we did the same thing. We lost the NFC championship at home in 1988. So that sucked too.
Yeah.
So Jim, with the defense that you guys had that year, obviously very, very much before my time. I was born in 2000, so I don't have a memory of it. I've watched obviously a lot of stuff. But having that exciting of a defense from an offensive perspective, first of all, how important is that? And second of all, how much fun was it just to know that at any given time your defense would make a huge play for you?
Well, it was great watching those guys play. The scheme of the defense was new. Teams are having a hell of a time trying to figure it out. And Buddy ran that scheme everywhere he was at, but it didn't really work other than in Chicago. And then it worked again in Philadelphia because he had the players to plug into that defense. There's a lot of pressure on your cornerbacks, a lot of pressure on your front four. The linebackers are designed to make all the plays, and they made a lot of them. But we had great players at pretty much every position, so they were tough to beat. Joe Gibbs from Washington was really the first guy to figure out how to beat that defense, and they beat us twice in the playoffs in '87 and '88 in Chicago. So he knew what he was doing as well.
So we have a question for you, Jim, from somebody watching. What do you think the difference is between the way defenses were run, specifically comparing to that '85 team, and from the football you see now? And especially from your perspective as a quarterback, reading defenses, how different are they in that span?
Well, the defenses aren't really any different than I played against. I mean, they have people walking around sometimes at the line of scrimmage, but none of that really matters. If you figure out what the hell or if you know what you're doing, you just have to count people. I don't care if the guy's number is in the 20s and he lines up in the gap. That's the guard's guy.
Yeah.
Or the way your scheme is. So, It's to me, it was never that difficult to figure out, especially if you're sitting in the shotgun and you're away from the center. Uh, your DBs, your safeties are usually going to give something away. That's the key, because that's why they call them safeties. They're supposed to save your ass. And so if you pick up something from them, then obviously something's going on, and you can adjust accordingly. But they can always send one more that you can block. And if you can figure out who that one guy is, it makes it pretty damn easy.
I like it.
So so to go along with that, so I got to ask you, man. So was it you or Jay that was making the adjustments to calling out the mic and doing the line adjustments at the line of scrimmage?
Oh, what Jay was doing half the time, but he was a good center. We used to tease him a lot because he'd say, anytime a guy gets over the nose, change the play. So I did that a lot for Jay, but no, he had a great career. He was in charge of the line calls, whatever sometimes you couldn't even hear him depending on what stadium you were playing in. So no, they did a great job up front. They don't get the credit that they deserve. Jimbo Covert finally got in the Hall of Fame last year. And, what those guys did for Walter and the other running backs. I mean, we led the league in rushing 4 straight years, which had never been done. And I don't think it's been done since. And that's a credit to those guys up front, because everybody knew we were going to run the ball, and we still ran it. So that proves how good those guys up front were.
Great. That's pretty cool, though, to get the offensive line credit. Not a lot of people do that right away. So that's awesome. So that's badass on you, sir. We haven't.
Those are the most important guys on the field besides the QB. So
it's true. We're seeing that in Chicago. We're seeing that in Chicago right now.
You don't do their job. It's a long ass day for everybody.
That's fair. That's fair. We have another question coming in, and I know we talked about this before we went live, but I'm sure you've heard some about the issues that are going on in Chicago. What are your thoughts on Nick Foles starting? I don't know if you've seen him at all or anything, but yeah, what are your thoughts on that? And what are your thoughts on Matt Nagy's play calling, if you've had an opportunity to see that?
Well, I told you guys earlier, I don't watch games. I don't watch the Bears or anybody else. I'd heard that they made the switch a couple of weeks ago, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like I said, I don't watch it, so I don't know what plays he's calling or who's doing what. So they're what, 5-2?
5-3.
Yeah, they're doing okay then. I mean, I think the only guys ahead of them is Green Bay, right?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And have they played them yet?
No.
No, they play a couple days after Thanksgiving and then mid-December.
Yep.
Well, those 2 games will be huge.
So with that, Jim, you've been on both sides of the Bears-Packers rivalry, with the Bears and then with the Packers when they won the Super Bowl in '92. So talk to me about that rivalry on the field, being on both sides of it. Give us a little description there.
Well, when I was in Chicago, it was pretty nasty, the rivalry. It was a lot of guys were getting ejected during games. One of the games I got dumped on my head after the play was over. It got ugly there for about 6 years, or actually all 7 years I was there. And then when I played in Green Bay, none of the guys that I'd been with in Chicago were still there, I don't think. So it was a whole different team, and the rivalry didn't really feel the same. It was nice to be able to pick up another ring with Green Bay, but it definitely wasn't the same for me as it was in Chicago. But it was nice when I was in Minnesota. I got to beat Green Bay and Chicago twice that year and go to the playoffs. So that was fun.
Sweet revenge.
In that division, you have to beat Chicago and you got to beat Green Bay.
Yep.
And I mean, back then we used to have Tampa in our division, and nobody ever cared about Detroit.
Yeah,
I don't think we're lost.
It's still
That's
pretty
unfortunate. That kid Stafford there has been there a long time, done well, and they just can't seem to win. I don't know what it is.
It's true.
They've always had a very good offense, and their defense has just been lacking. Even the kid Okuda that they drafted 3rd overall this year. Saw something today. He's like the 2nd lowest rated rookie defensive back out of the draft. So they just can't seem to hit on the defensive picks. They have guys like Calvin Johnson retire early. It's just been rough for a while for them.
Well, I don't feel bad.
I love it.
The last question I'll ask specifically about your time with Green Bay is we see. I mean, you had a very big personality on the field. Brett Favre had a very big personality on the field. So talk to me about being teammates with Brett Favre.
It was a lot of fun. Brett was, he was a hell of a football player. He was a tough kid. Loved to play. Just loved to be out on the field, throwing the ball around. You still see him on these commercials throwing the ball around.
Yep.
Copperfit, or whatever the heck he's doing. And he helps down at the high school too. I mean, he just loves to play, and he was a great competitor, and he was fun. He was just fun to be around. Wasn't so much fun in the meetings because he liked to pass a lot of gas, and it was nasty.
That's good.
And from what I've heard, he didn't pay too much attention in those meetings either.
Well, it was hard to pay attention. We had Steve Mariucci as our coach, and he would ramble and ramble and ramble. And it got pretty old.
I forget where I heard this, but I heard a story about how Favre didn't know the difference. He didn't know, I think it was a dime or a nickel defense. Like, how much of, at the beginning of his career, was it really just like pure talent, him just running around playing football, having fun, and he didn't much know what was coming at him?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
That lasted until I left. I mean, he still was running around doing things that, he'd hit the free safety in the chest pretty much every week. Sometimes he'd catch it, sometimes he wouldn't. And then Holmgren would look at me and go, "Why did he do that?" And I'm like, "Hell, I've only been here a year and a half. You've been here 4 with him. I don't know why he's doing that." But, he would run around and sling it way across the field, and it would work out. I mean, he played a long time doing that, and like I said, he had a great career and in the Hall of Fame now. So,
absolutely.
So I gotta pull you back into the Chicago Bears here.
Oh boy.
So I actually want to talk to you about the dynamic that you had with Coach Ditka, or even if there was one. What was it like with that man, and how were the interactions with him?
Well, I think at the beginning it was okay. It wasn't like I was sitting behind a couple Hall of Famers. I think Ditka wanted me to play early, and I ended up playing pretty early in my career. And we had a lot of different ideas of how to get things, how to get a win. That's all I wanted to do was win football games. And sometimes we had different ideas of how to get that done. He was a tight end as a player. And that's basically how he called plays, is like a tight end would call. I mean, there's really no rhyme or reason for some of the things that he would send into me. And, being the way I was taught in college, it said if I got to the line of scrimmage and I can see something that I could exploit, to do that. And so that was ingrained in me. So, I would call the play that he sent in, or I'd change it, or sometimes I wouldn't change it, or I wouldn't call it. I'd call my own. And things got a little heated, but we both wanted the same thing, and that was to win. It's just unfortunate we had those run-ins like that. I would love to play with the guy. I told him that many times. He was a great football player, and had he ever been in my huddle, I think he would have understood me a lot better.
So I'm interested. How often do you think that there's a disconnect between a coach and a quarterback? How much of that is just natural? Like, is that just something that is kind of inherent to a play-calling head coach and a star quarterback? And how much of that goes down to personality?
I don't know. I mean, you're stuck with whatever team you get drafted by. That's the coach you got. So, either you get along with them or you don't. It doesn't really matter, I don't think. I think what matters if you're doing your job and you're winning games. The relationships, sometimes are good, sometimes they're bad, but that really has nothing to do with wins and losses.
That's fair. That's fair.
Beat me there.
So I'm going to take you down that Super Bowl shuffle highway now, baby.
Oh boy.
Let's talk about how it was down in New Orleans and some of the reports that were that were falsely. I'm going to say falsely because I read about that. If you don't mind me like talking about that, I won't say specifically what happened or what was said or whatever. However, can you just elaborate on how it was just crazy as all hell down there and talk to us a little bit about the experiences of, leading up to the Super Bowl?
Well, when we went down there, we had no curfew all week long, which was great.
Wow.
Cheers.
We would pay for it in practice the next day, but a lot of us saw the sun come up a few days. But we were having a great time, and I was doing all the interviews, did all my press obligations. I thought things were going well. Thursday morning, I get woken up about 6 o'clock in the morning, an irate fan screaming and yelling at me, cussing me out, saying they're going to kill me. So I hung up. A couple minutes later, same thing, another fan. My roommate looked at me, what's going on? I said, hell, I don't know, but somebody's pissed. And so I go down to breakfast, and our general manager walked up to me, and all he said was, you really did it this time. And then he walked away. So I still don't know what the hell I did. So now I'm still standing in the food line, and then Ditka walked up to me and said, did you really say that? And I said, Mike, I got woken up this morning. I said, Jerry's mad at me. I said, what the hell did I say? And he said, did you do a radio show this morning and call all the women of New Orleans sluts? And I said, what? I said, what radio show? What time was this? And he said, 6 o'clock this morning at, whatever station it was. I said, look, dude, I got back here at 5:30. I was not doing a radio show. And I surely wouldn't say that to the press, even if I knew that was to be true. I would have never said that to the press.
No.
So, the rest of the week I was getting death threats. The hotel was getting picketed by all these women. I kept getting, strange phone calls. I mean, it was not the Super Bowl week that I was looking forward to. I've seen the crazy movies, Black Sunday and all these things, if somebody wants to take you out, they'll take you out. And so that whole game, I don't really remember much of the game. I just remember as soon as the end of the game, when the gun went off, I just looked around to make sure I wasn't shot, and I took off to the locker room. And I was just glad to get out of town.
Wow.
And the story, it was a guy went on TV and said all this, and I never even talked to that guy before. I didn't even know who the hell who he was, and all of a sudden I'm getting death threats.
Jeez.
Dang.
Well, on a less serious note, I mean, I know you said you didn't remember much from the game, but the celebration afterwards, how was the locker room? What was the atmosphere like? And tell us a little bit about the parade when you got back to Chicago.
Well, like I said, I don't remember much about, other than everybody just, happy as hell that it was finally over. We finally had done it. It'd been 20 something years before the Bears had won their previous championship. Don't remember much about that night. That's my biggest regret is I didn't come back for the parade. Myself, Jimbo Covert, and I think Walter, maybe Walter went back. I can't remember. But we went right from there to Honolulu in the Pro Bowl that was coming up the following week. So, but we watched the celebration from our hotel in Hawaii, and it looked awesome. That's still, like I said, my biggest regret is not going back to be a part of that. It was crazy. It was a crazy scene.
Fair enough.
Yeah. The last question I have for you, Jim, is kind of similar to my question with Brett Favre. Walter Payton, incredible football player. Just give us a little description there from your perspective, the time you spent with him on and off the field, maybe something people don't know about him. Give us a little description there of Walter Payton.
He was just a great teammate, great guy, a lot of fun to be around. He just did his job. He never complained. He never said, give me the ball in the huddle. He just always did his job, and it was amazing to watch, especially my first 2 years in the league, because our offensive line was really not that good. And I would be amazed to watch him. I'd hand the ball off, and I'd have to get out of the way 2 or 3 times because he would be bouncing off people, and he just did not like to be tackled. And to see him make a 30-yard run that only gained 2 yards, it was pretty amazing.
That's true. I like it. Bruce, any last questions for Jim?
No, I thank you so much for your time, Jim. You're an absolute legend in Chicago, and appreciate your time, brother.
All right, guys. Take care.
We will. Talk to you later, Jim. Thank you very much.
All right. See you guys.
Thank you, sir.
Well, there you have it, Bruce.
Jim McMahon.
Just the I don't even know how to describe, like, having Super Bowl champion, like, I'm just locked on all of his words, if that makes sense.
I know. You know, one of the things I actually did want to talk to him about a little bit, and I could sit down and just have a conversation with him like the rest of the night.
Oh, for
because
sure.
I'm totally curious. I want to talk to him about a little bit about the BYU quarterback, Zach Wilson. I want to talk to him. And I think it's interesting too how he just doesn't watch the Bears at all.
And I've heard that with some, especially I think Brett Favre even said that at one point. He was like and that was more recent, right when Favre retired. He said I don't watch football because it was part of a mental thing. Like, it drove him crazy. He was pointing out mistakes, and he just wanted to be on the field. And we know Brett Favre's tendency to return to football even after he said he was done. So with that, I mean,
right. I'm sure it's kind of one of those things that, like, if you watch it and you're seeing these mistakes or whatever, it just fuels that competitive drive, that competitive, like, thoughts like, oh, I can still do this. I can still do this.
Especially a team you won a Super Bowl for. And
100%.
like you said, ending in drought, like that's something that is just ingrained in you.
Currently, they are the Chicago Bears are the longest running team in Chicago that has a drought.
Really?
Yes. 1985. That was the last time.
Fun fact, so they won the Super Bowl, and a couple days later, my sister was born. So they have not won a Super Bowl since my sister was born.
I was already born, dude. So this.
Okay, I'm proud of you.
I'm sorry.
Do you want a parade? I mean, I know Jim didn't go to the Bears parade. You want one?
That'd be awesome. I'll take a parade.
There, Jim can come to your parade.
Hey, real quick. Honestly, though, that was awesome. That was really cool. It was awesome talking to Jim McMahon. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not like usually hardcore starstruck, but that, like,
I could tell,
great
Bruce.
dude.
You were asking like very professional questions, and I'm like, ooh, look at Bruce go.
Who the hell is this guy being professional?
Okay, Bruce. Real quick, we do have to fulfill some obligations.
Yes.
Before our friend comes on,
yes.
Do you want to read the intro? You want to read the intro in the first ad?
Yeah, no, I can. I'll read the first one. The weekend is right around the corner, guys, and there are plenty of things going on in Central Illinois. Did you know about that? To keep you and your family busy. Whether you're just visiting or you call it the heart of Illinois home, Discover Peoria, the Peoria Area Convention and Visitors Bureau, has dropped us some information about a few weekly discoveries you don't want to miss. Discover Peoria's 6th annual Santa Claus run. Santa Claus.
See the little play on words.
I like that. That was good.
Register
now, guys. Registration is now open for the 6th annual Santa Claus run, which will take place Saturday, December 12th through Sunday, December 20th. This year's run will take place over a 9-day period that allows you and your family to walk or run on your own pace and your own time. Route will follow the sculpture walk by Arts and Partners of Central Illinois. The run will benefit Arts Partners of Central Illinois. Head over to discoverpeoria.com/Santa Claus run to register.
So we'll have another ad later, but just to explain why Third Down Thursdays now has advertisements, I've had a relationship with Discover Peoria, which promotes the things in the Peoria area, which is where I go to college, and then events in the surrounding Peoria Tri-County area. And since Bruce and I have been having so much fun here, I transferred the advertisement and the sponsorships from my personal show to our show. So we have gotten more official now, Bruce. Congratulations. We have advertisements.
Despite what one of our viewers says, I am phenomenal at this. You are phenomenal at this, and
Thank you very
we
much.
are doing big things.
Oh my gosh. No, I am very proud of you, Bruce. You did very well.
Thanks, man. I wouldn't have been able to do it without you.
And even though Jim was making fun of you before we went live, that you were
That's true. Well,
a PE
I mean,
teacher.
honestly, who doesn't? The shit just rolls off my back now.
No, we love it. And I would like to say, before we start ranting about the Packers and Bears, who had absolutely atrocious weeks, just want to thank everybody who is listening and watching right now. We are having record viewership for our show, and I'm sure we'll have record viewership afterwards when we post it. So thank you, everybody, for watching. I know Bruce and I appreciate that very much. Friends, family, and everybody on social media who came from whatever platform that I blasted this out to at 7 p.m., we thank you very much.
Yes. Much appreciated, guys. Much appreciated.
So Bruce, do you wanna start on week 8,
Oh
or do you want me to?
dude.
Mine is very short. Mine is very short, so I can start if you want.
So please.
So 3 things. Number 1, Dalvin Cook is a very good running back.
He's a stud.
That's all I have to say about that. Number 2, when you don't have your very good running back, football is harder. And number 3, the Packers, when they get gashed by the run, lose. It doesn't happen very often. It is a very rare occurrence. But in every game that Matt LaFleur has lost as the head coach of the Green Bay Packers, they have allowed at least 180 yards per game rushing. So basically, if the Packers look like they're getting destroyed on the ground, they're probably going to lose, which is why I'm terrified of what's going to happen tonight. I will say, because it's a Thursday night game for the Packers, they've already scored a touchdown.
You're already looking. I love it.
Devontae Adams, 36-yard pass from Aaron Rodgers. That was pretty much my prediction. Is Devontae
Are you allowed to talk about this?
Yes, I can. I can't. So here's the distinction: we can't play the actual video. Technically, I could play the audio if I wanted to, just not the video. But no, Packers are up 7-0. 10 minutes left in the first quarter. They have the ball back as well. So I don't know what happened there.
I don't think anyone wants to listen to the Packers about.
Okay, Bruce. You said you were going to give me my time. Let's see. How did they? It was just a punt.
Well,
okay.
While you're looking at those stats, let's talk about the absolute joke of a franchise here in Chicago right now.
Do you want to let Eric is in the waiting room? Do you want to let him in to talk about this? Or?
Actually, yeah, no. Let Eric in because okay. Eric will totally go with me on all of this.
Sweet.
So, all right, let's let my buddy Eric in. So I guess I'll do the introduction for this guy, I guess.
Does he have?
Is his screen?
Is
his screen gonna pop up?
It's just black.
I know.
Eric, how you doing, buddy?
You there, buddy?
Oh, Eric.
You there? You got a little access to your camera there, buddy.
Camera, microphone.
This is what happens.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, there we go. There he is. There he is.
Oh, there we go.
All right, real quick. All right, so those of you that don't know this gentleman that's jumping on with us right now, his name's Eric. He's my boy. I've known the guy for 30 years, 31 years. Probably the most knowledgeable person and most opinionated person about sports that I know. I consider myself knowledgeable, hence the reason, but I'm also very outgoing, and I'm a dumbass that does stuff like this. Whereas like Eric is just absolute freaking wealth of knowledge with the sports. So that said, Eric, welcome to Third Down Thursdays with MJ and myself. It's a pleasure to have you, brother.
Thank you. And hey, MJ, thank you to you, man.
Absolutely.
What you and Bruce have been doing has been actually really inspiring to me. It's been something I've been thinking about doing for a long time. And honestly, being a little bit older than you, I want to let you know, like, what you're doing and what you're pursuing is pretty damn cool, man. Like,
thank you.
Looking back on it, if I could have done it all over again, knowing that this Twitch thing, this YouTube thing was going to take off, man, I would have been all over it. So congrats to you for following your dream and following your heart. And watching Bruce be along for the ride has been pretty cool. So it's fun that you guys are letting me on. I'm ecstatic. Too.
And I always want to give Bruce credit because this was entirely Bruce's idea. Bruce shot me a text. He saw what I was doing with my podcast, and he was just kind of letting me know that he listened to a couple episodes. He enjoyed it. He was like, hey, we should do something sometime. So we got together, kind of set something up, and out of it came, as Bruce likes to say, our little mom and pop show that we've now had a 2-time Super Bowl winning champion quarterback on. So I know
you're
Bruce.
Following that up.
I know. I really wish that we could post some of the texts that Bruce has sent when I told him that we were going to have Jim on the show.
Giddy. He's been giddy.
He went crazy, and he's been very excited. So we're happy to have another first having you on this episode, Eric. So I've already done my little Packers rant. I'm sure Eric will rip into me later for that as well. But if you two want to go off on the Bears, feel free. The floor is yours.
Hey, you know what though? I'll start real quick. I actually wanted Trubisky to start now. The only reason why is because of that offensive line. That offensive line is crap, and you're going to have a quarterback who's mobile in Trubisky to get away from the pressures that the defensive line or linebackers or whomever it might be come at them or at him. Nick Foles is a statue. We've already seen it. We haven't seen an improvement in that offense whatsoever since he's been at the helm. So at the end of the day, I say go back to the young kid. You can't anymore because he's hurt. But it could be a Kyle Long injury. But I would have much preferred having that happen. I thought that the first half this past week against the Saints was a much better called game by Nagy. The second half, I thought he crapped his pants again. I didn't like a lot. I don't think that there was a steady progression to the play calling at all. They got away a little bit from the running game. David Montgomery had his best game since week 3, and I don't know. There were some positives. Trevathan had a great game. David Montgomery had a great game, but again, you're going to have 4 guys off the street this week starting on offensive line. Nick Foles is going to get drilled like crazy. I don't know. Eric, help me out here. What's your thoughts?
The way that I was thinking about it, I was actually thinking about this today when I was driving home. So what Jim McMahon said on your show earlier is the exact thing that I've been thinking about for months is the most important positions on the field on offense are quarterback and offensive line.
Yep.
It's been an utter failure. I know they drafted Whitehair. I know they've drafted James Daniels. At the end of the day, I think if you look at the performance from the tackles, I think 2018 was an anomaly when their offense was actually good. I think according to Pro Football Focus, I think Leno rated out as one of the top 5 tackles in the league. And I think that gave Ryan Pace a lot of unfounded confidence on the edges. And I think he's been a disaster ever since he signed that contract. And for me, kind of looking how this team is constructed, looking what Pace and Nagy want to do from an offensive standpoint, it's utterly impossible because the offensive line is just that bad. And that's maddening to me that the evaluation of that position over 3 years has been – the tackles have been overvalued, and then that position since has not been addressed because you paid a guy that doesn't deserve to be paid. So I think since then, looking at the New Orleans game, you're right. They got into a rhythm in the first half. They were up 13-3 at a certain point. I think the offensive line was playing okay. When the offensive line plays okay, the offense has enough weapons to make plays. They can do okay. But the reality is, I think every game we're just kind of waiting for this implosion to come, and that's exactly what happened. 13-3, and they imploded. Don't even get me started on the sequence at the end of the half when New Orleans had the ball. And I mean, I don't know what the play calling was. I don't know what the mentality from the coaches was, but they let New Orleans walk into the end zone. And
that defense, baby.
I mean, it was the touchdown pass to Jared Cook at the end of the half with no one within 10 yards of him. It was so maddening. When you have a 13-3 team lead on that team that kicked your ass last year at Soldier Field. I don't even think they had positive yards in the first half. That was one of the biggest disasters of Trubisky's career last year. We lost the game 30-10. We were beating them. We looked like we could play with them. And the implosion came. Next thing you know, you're down 23-13 and you're scrambling to come back. And you just can't trust the offense to make plays. And if I played defense for the Chicago Bears, it would be so hard for me to line up in almost a demoralizing way, knowing that you get the offense the ball back, or you play even bend but don't break, which is good enough in this NFL, in my opinion, because everything is geared towards the offenses. The Bears have done a wonderful job. They weren't what they were in 2018, but in 2018, they had confidence their offense was going to score. The last 2 years have been a disaster offensively, and the team is still a top 10 defensive unit. They keep going out there and doing their job. At some point, though, I mean, they can only make so many plays. Their offense has to be able to win a game, and they just can't.
So I don't know if you had a chance to see it. Last week we had Josh Woods on, and he's the Bears' backup linebacker. And we did bring up this point to him, and he brought up the point saying that we try not to we don't even think about it. We don't cause a rift. It doesn't do anything for our life. But I actually think it's human nature.
It's human nature. Exactly. I mean, it's a team sport. I mean, the defense isn't scoring points, and that's not their job. Their job is to get guys off the field and limit the offense from putting points on the board. That's what the Bears do. And in this NFL, if you got a defense that's holding teams to under 20 points a game, you should be winning the majority of your games. Right. But they just can't beat elite teams because they can't put the ball in the end zone against elite teams. And that comes back to bite them every week. And I think a big part of that is on Matt Nagy is an offensive play caller, but the worst part is you can't do much, like Jim McMahon said. If you don't have an offensive line, you can only
do shit.
And the
it's gonna be a long day.
It's gonna be a long day. That's exactly what he said.
Yep.
So, so to end this portion of our talk with Eric, I'm gonna get a prediction out of you, dude. What's the score of this weekend's game?
Remind me of who they're playing this weekend.
Titans.
Oh boy. 21-17 Titans.
21-17. I'll do mine at the end. So
yeah, Bruce is the drama queen, and he saves his for the end.
That's how I roll.
Go for it.
I mean, the Titans would scare me. I mean, the Packers are gonna have to play them, and they scare me. But at the same time, they just lost to the Bengals. So like,
But it doesn't matter in the NFL. Joe Burrow's been good. Yeah. Their offense has been putting up points.
He's the number 3 quarterback in the NFL in passing yards right now.
And they can put up points. I don't think the Bears can put up points against that team. That's why
especially if I think Joe Mixon. This may be controversial, but I think Joe Mixon getting hurt for a couple of weeks was the best thing that could have happened to that offense.
Gio Bernard's been great the last 2 years.
So now they have both of them functioning well. Burrow got a little bit more confident. I think AJ Green got a couple more touches. He looked a little bit better.
Yeah, dude, that T. Higgins guy or whatever, he's legit too, man. And Boyd's probably the best receiver. And they got weapons out.
I love Boyd. Sure. I love Boyd. Like he's not afraid to catch in traffic. I love him. All right, so we got to shift gears here a little bit, Eric, if you don't mind. MJ, if you don't mind too.
Go for it.
We're gonna jump on the baseball bandwagon a little bit.
You didn't make your prediction. Did you make your prediction?
No, he saves it till like the end of the show.
You're going to do it at the end of the show. Got it.
Yeah, come on, dog. So Eric, you've had. We talked about this a little bit earlier today. MJ, I can't wait to hear your reactions to Eric's thoughts on the owner of the Chicago White Sox.
Oh boy.
We don't talk about the White Sox as extensively. My knowledge base on the Chicago White Sox, I'm not gonna lie, isn't the greatest. That being said, though, Eric, please, with Tony La Russa being hired, and
hold on. So this isn't new news, so I'm not bringing anything to the table that hasn't been talked about. But where my passion for this comes from, being a Cubs fan, is really being a Bulls fan, because
I agree with you on that.
I am just over the edge with how that organization has been run. And as somebody who is more of a fan than he is a hater, I mean, I don't hate the White Sox, but I just don't pay attention to what they do unless they're playing the Cubs, to be perfectly honest. They have some fun players, so being a fan, like, I keep up with stats with guys like Luis Robert and some of these other guys because it's interesting. But what's more fascinating to me, and become more fascinating to me over the years, is just how much organizationally things matter at the top. And I think it really started for me is when the Cubs sold from the Tribune over to the Ricketts, and the Ricketts started making moves like investing money into the team, investing money into the stadium. But the biggest one was they went out and got maybe the best baseball exec of this generation. They went and got Theo. And they basically got out of Theo's way, and they had a plan, and he put something together, and he brought a World Series here. And that's what the best do. And it was just shocking to me to go from utter futility under the Chicago Tribune, because that's pretty much what they were. They had some spot years where they were okay with
mediocrity.
But let's be honest. When we're talking about sports, and MJ being a Packer fan knows everything about this, organizationally, what you're trying to do is you're trying to compete consistently year in, year out. That's what the best organizations do. The Packers do it. The Yankees do it. The Red Sox do it. The Pittsburgh Steelers do it. The New England Patriots do it. The San Antonio Spurs do it. The LA Lakers do it. The Miami Heat do it. Just a way to stay competitive even when you're going through some down slopes, some down years. It's just how you build an organization matters. To me, when you look at the White Sox and you look at just how they've been constructed, and even more maddening, how much of a pass Jerry Reinsdorf gets. They got their World Series, and I give them credit for getting the World Series in, what was it, 08?
05.
05, okay, 05. Right? But that was a Kenny Williams run team.
100%. And he had all the
and that guy, in my opinion, never did a good job. He didn't draft well. He didn't develop well. No, he never built anything for sustained success. The fact that the White Sox have been to 6 playoff appearances in 60 years, which is once every 12 years, is such an indictment on that team in the city of Chicago that it's crazy to me. So now you fast forward to where we are now, and I think you have one of the top 5 GMs in baseball. I think Rick Hahn is a genius. I did a little homework before this. I'm going to go through it quickly, but this is what Hahn has done since 16-17. This is what he's done since 16-17. In the 16-17 offseason, he traded Chris Sale for Johan Makata, Kopech, and Victor Diaz. He also traded Adam Eaton for Giolito, Ronaldo Lopez, and Dane Dunning. 3/5 of starting rotation, essentially.
Yes.
During the 2017 season, that's when they traded Quintana to the Cubs for Eloy Jimenez and Dylan Cease. They signed Luis Robert as an international free agent. And in 2018-19, they got their closer Alex Colomé for a backup catcher, Omar Narvaez. During that time, he's also drafted and signed Yasmani Grandal, Brian McCann, Garrett Crochet, Dallas Keuchel. I already said Luis Robert. Tim Anderson made his debut in either 15 or 16. Nick Madrigal. And Jose Abreu kind of started it in 14, right? This is an unbelievable influx of talent in a short period of time. And the way that he has built this organization for sustained success going into the future it's a wonderful thing to watch. Even though I'm not a White Sox fan, he did a masterful job of constructing this roster, right? They had a chance to win the World Series this year. They didn't. You can make the argument if Kopech was in that starting rotation, they might have, because he is that good and he's a difference maker.
Yes.
I fully expect them to shore that up, and they are set to be World Series contenders. So how in the world do you get to this offseason? You allow him to get rid of a lame duck manager who's not good enough to lead a championship organization. He's already proved that. And you have 2 World Series managers who manage in modern day baseball. Alex Cora and AJ Hinch sitting there on the table, available, primed, ready to take over a team in this market, sitting there. And you know Rick Hahn is chomping at the bit to get one of these 2 guys in there to lead this organization to win another title. And you, as a narcissistic, sociopathic owner, says, I got to pull out a guy who's 75 years old and is out of touch with this baseball generation.
Mothballs.
Retired in the Hall of Fame.
Retired in the Hall of Fame, but at the end of the day, it just doesn't make sense. And you literally basically, in my mind, you just told your world-class GM that I'm emasculating you. I'm not allowing you to pick the leader to lead this organization that you built, I'm bringing in my guy, and it's going to be my way going forward. And I mean, listening to Rick Hahn in that press conference when they made the announcement, listening to him have to take bullets for his owner, saying that they're on the same page, that they're really not. It's a joke. And it speaks to me of incompetency at the top. And this is why they've been to the playoffs 6 times in 60 years. Because even when they're set up to win, this guy can't do anything but get in the way. And that's infuriating to me. And I know people are starting to talk about it. I feel like it's been a long time coming. But I think this needs way more attention, because I don't think that organization's ever going to be what it should be till that guy gets out. And he might run that GM out of town. He really might.
I agree.
Couldn't have said it
I
better
love it,
myself.
dude. So, I was gonna say, this is stuff that I hear from him like on a regular too. So you just let him go, and it's great.
Yeah, I mean, and again, speaking from an A's fan, I'm well aware of being right on the edge with an incredible amount of young talent, and then certain people in an organization screwing it over and fire selling a year early. So yeah, I as somebody who just enjoys watching good baseball, I very much hope the White Sox do not ruin what they have. And dear goodness, please go spend money.
You can make a valid argument that the manager isn't going to make a huge difference when the talent is this good, but I think it's more of just if you've ever worked in a culture that's toxic, if you've ever been in a dysfunctional, it trickles down and it's bad for everybody. So the thing is, they might get their World Series, but I think what he did was Reinsdorf just threw a massive wrench in the stability of their future, because if you lose Rick Hahn, it's really hard to replace those guys. And we've seen.
I'll take him on the north side.
I'll take 100%. Sylvie said this on his show. He'd be the first call I'd make if Theo and Jed leave, which they are going to at some point. And I totally agree. Come over to the north side and do your thing. Get out of the way and let him do his thing.
So
speaking of that, go ahead, MJ. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to move there too. There's been some movement that the Cubs need to get rid of at least one of Javi, Bryant, or Rizzo. If you had to choose one to trade, let go when they become a free agent, something along those lines, who are you getting rid of? I think there's an obvious answer, but...
Yeah, well, for me, it's Bryant, but the problem with it is there's no market value for those guys right now. Like, there's just...
Because they were so
you can't maximize it. It's the definition, if you think about it in, like, fantasy football terms, it's the definition of teams buying low on a guy and expecting better performance. Yeah. And it's the main reason why I think they're going to run it back. I think they're going to run it back with basically the same unit, because
you can't expect
unless somebody really steps up and Theo finds a package for a team that realizes that Brian's probably not going to be this bad forever and they're going to get something great. I mean, I don't see them getting anything of value that can really help them right now. In terms, their value is as low as it gets. They couldn't hit this year.
They're all the same hitter. I mean, we've had that talk too.
I mean, Bryant's on a Hall of Fame track, man. I looked at his baseball reference numbers the other day. I mean, the last year and a half has to be an anomaly. He has to be dealing with an ailment, because you don't go from being that to this. So you got to think that he's gonna progress, and he's probably gonna be a 900 and 920 OPS guy. And he's going to be elite, probably top 15, top 20 hitter in baseball, which that has a lot of value, but he doesn't have that right now. So if I was a team knowing that he was going to be he's a free agent after this year.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
He's a free agent after this year. I mean, I'm not trading for that for 1 year flyer thinking I'm going to get maximum value and give a lot away for it. Go ahead.
Especially when his defensive value, I mean, he's at least a little bit above average, in my opinion. I've never looked at his numbers. From the eye test, he's a little bit above average, but he's nowhere near Javi or Rizzo.
Correct. And then speaking of your point, if I was to trade one guy, it would be him, because he's also going to command a contract that I don't know if I'd be willing to pay. So with Boris being his agent, I mean, Javi and Rizzo give you elite defensive value. So at least, like you said, MJ, if they're not hitting, they're playing defense and they're helping you. Javi might be the best defensive shortstop in baseball. That's a hard thing to get rid of. Up the middle defense.
And Ellie, he's got that Gold Glove now.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it would definitely be Bryant, but unfortunately, I think they're going to stay mostly status quo, try to fill in some holes and hope that there's some progression, and I think that's all you can really hope for.
Agree.
Yeah. Let's see. The one other question I had real quick is if there's one move you had the Cubs that you want them to make this offseason, a realistic move, what would you want them to do?
Wow, that's on the personnel side or on the front office side, because to be honest with you, the thing that's been going through my head the most is, I hate to even say this, but I kind of hope that Theo just steps down, because I think they're in a place where I don't think they're going to contend for a World Series next year. And I think he knows his time is expiring.
9 years.
And I think it would be a good time to either promote Jed and get a new GM in there, or bring in a new front office completely, try to run it back for 1 year. And if it doesn't work, then evaluate and really start making some serious changes. On the personnel side, you're going to ask me what I would like them to do. I'd like them to find a package, and I'd like them to get a consistent bat. I want a Nolan Arenado, or I want somebody like that in the lineup, which is what Chris Bryant used to be, where you're getting production day in and day out. They need a steady force. They need a steady force there, and they need an on-base guy. They need a consistent on-base contact guy.
I was saying DJ. I said DJ on one of our previous shows.
Who moves the lineup along. Those are the two things I think the lineup desperately needs.
Somebody in the chat says re-sign Lester and go after Bauer.
I'd re-sign Lester to be my 5, and that's it.
Yeah.
But he gets paid like a 5, and that's it. And the Bauer thing is interesting, and I think the Bauer thing makes more sense for the White Sox than it does the Cubs, because Bauer has already said he's only signing 1-year deals from here on out. I could see the guy's point, because you could say that the Cubs would then have an elite rotation that would actually give them a chance, and that would be a wicked 1-2-3 punch with the Darvish and Hendricks. I could see that, but I think if you bring them to the South Side with what they going on, I think they instantly become the
He fits into
favorite.
that culture better too on the South Side.
For sure.
I agree.
For sure.
Awesome.
Anything else we got, Bruce?
Oh, I gotta get my prediction for the.
Yeah, I'm waiting to hear this.
Yep.
I'm dying to hear this.
Hold on. I always look at the spread too. I haven't looked at the spread lately, so hold on. Let me take a look real quick.
By the way, Packers still up 7-3 end of the first quarter. I know you're on the edge of your seat there, Bruce.
You're minus 6.5 too for that game.
Really? It was 7.5 earlier today.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Maybe it was with the.
It depends on where you look, but.
Well, I'm not gonna say where I'm looking, just because we're trying to get some more people to like our show. If you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, you're right.
Hold up.
Tennessee 6.5 is what I see right now.
All right, so I think they're going to cover. I do think they're going to cover.
Okay.
I'm going to say Titans 20, Bears 14.
What's the spread?
6.5.
6.5.
Oh, it's on the Bears game at 6.5.
Yeah.
They're plus 6.5. The Bears are.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
5 days, dude.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, I have no problem with that one.
Awesome. Dude, honestly, this is probably one of our more fun shows to do today, MJ. We've already ran over the time that we go.
It's perfect.
But it works out well. Eric, appreciate you jumping on with
Thanks for having me, guys. Whenever you want me, I'm on.
Yeah, man. Like the knowledge that you give is ridiculous. So
Absolutely. It's been a good time, Eric. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank you everyone for watching.
appreciate it, brother.
Talk to you later.
See you guys.
Thanks, guys.